Billy Napier, how did you do it? Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. We're looking at Gators football 2025, and you and I and just about everybody else outside the Napier family, and maybe even some secretly inside the Napier clan, believed that somebody else was going to be the head coach of Florida football in 2025. But the dead man walking somehow survived, and he has life. And the Florida football program does as well. It just wasn't the loss after loss after loss after loss after recruiting loss after recruiting loss as well off the field. And then, of course, the subpar seasons prior to what we witnessed in September last year. But did you see the scene following the Texas A&M loss, which the final score was closer than the competition on the field? Texas A&M skull-dragged Florida players across the field. Billy Napier headed toward the tunnel, and Fire Billy chants were in full voice, and it was a bad scene. The Gators kind of stumbled around after that, found some victories against lesser competition, UCF, Mississippi State, moved their defensive coordinator in regards to moving him from the sideline to the press box. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then the stretch drive that was supposed to be the death knell of Billy Napier. 5 games against preseason top 10 competition. And Florida navigated it. Now, they did catch a break or two. Maybe LSU wasn't quite as good as we thought, and certainly Florida State was a disaster themselves. But 4 consecutive wins down the stretch, and Florida football is alive and well, and actually a chic pick to do something. Make some noise here in 2025. All right, maybe we're jumping ahead a little bit too much, but certainly reason for optimism. And this is maybe the biggest transformation in college football. Not technically, not the nuts and bolts of the roster, but the perception of where Florida football stands right now versus 7 months ago is remarkable. And I would say that Florida actually played better than its record. Again, the closing run was a gauntlet. Could have been one of the most difficult in the history of college football. They played better than the final score would indicate against Georgia, playing with a third-string quarterback. They were outplaying the Bulldogs at that point. Should have won a game in Knoxville against the top 10 Tennessee team, in which they outplayed the Vols but lost in overtime. The Gators had a nice season. They really did after that run against Miami and Texas A&M when they looked abysmal early. And now here we go with a number 7 recruiting class to also bring into 2025. 4 consecutive wins, and here we go. 2 key injuries actually ended up being godsends for Billy Napier. One was, of course, at quarterback. Graham Mertz had a great 2023 season. 20 touchdowns, 3 picks. Set the all-time school record for completion percentage, but was not the answer, not what this team needed. DJ Lagway, of course, was. Was he ready? Well, they had no choice. Mertz went down with an ACL. In steps DJ Lagway. It was sporadic. It was hit or miss, but it was electrifying. He showed the talent. 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That needs to be cleaned up. Took his shots downfield. Led the SEC in yards per completion. One of the best numbers in the nation. Actually was more accurate throwing the ball deep downfield than underneath. So, of course, his offseason crucial in his development. Unfortunately, some injuries have held him back from getting the reps in that he needs. Montrell Johnson, fine running back, led the Gators in rushing the year before. However, he went down with a knee injury, and Jaden Baugh, he was the find as a freshman, 673 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he's established as a really good impact player. And then backing him up is, of course, Jacoby Jackson, 509 yards and 7 touchdowns, and a host of talented freshmen providing depth at the running back position for Florida. This is probably the deepest, most talented Florida wide receiver core in fill in the blank, Gator fans. I don't even know if we need to go back probably all the way, possibly, in terms of talent and depth, to the Urban Meyer years. Not production yet. We shall see if these guys come through. Eugene Wilson, 19 catches last year. J. Michael Sturdivant, 22 catches at UCLA. Aiden Mizell, 17 catches. Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown. Let's not put too much in those guys, but ultra talented as 4 and 5 stars coming in as freshmen. The offensive line, 4 starters back, including first-team All-America center Jake Slaughter. The defense was so much improved last season, and what was remarkable is that they improved even more against the better offenses on the schedule later in the season. That shows how much the development, working together, the chemistry, these players gelling, and the scheme of Ron Roberts, once he moved from the sideline after the first couple games of the season to the press box, took hold. They improved from 7 turnovers caused. That's it. The year before to 25. They want to get 30 this time. And then in regards to sacks, they went from 22 to 39. Drastic improvement. 7 starters back, including defensive tackle Caleb Banks, 7 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks. Bryce Thornton, one of the leaders in the secondary with 3 picks. Cormani McClain. Will this guy ever grow up? The former 5-star who almost originally signed at Florida. Miami, Colorado. Has he been anywhere else? Again, we'll see if he's able to contribute at a higher rate this year. Maybe he's finally settled in and grown up. This team only gave up 19 points per game against those offenses in the final 9 games of the season. At place kicker, it's Trey Smack, 18 of 21, including 53 and 55 yarders. And Michigan punter Tommy Doman, one of the best in the Big Ten, heads to Gainesville. Yes, it's an SEC schedule, so it's tough. But on top of that, Florida really has it rough. We know what they had to face last year, and with the SEC scheduling format being what it is, with Oklahoma and Texas entering the league, the SEC set up schedules for 2024 and 25 that are exactly the same. They just switch home and road. So here we go, Florida. And outside the conference, Florida State and Miami. So we get to see the big Florida powers playing each other for a second consecutive year. From mid-September to mid-October, rough. At LSU, at Miami, Texas and Texas A&M on the road consecutively. That's 4 consecutive games. If they can get through that, no, they still have another stretch in November. Georgia at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. They beat LSU and Ole Miss in 2024. Now they're really going to have to beat multiple heavyweights in the SEC to really make noise in the conference. They've got that many good teams on the schedule to try to get through. I have to admit here, I've got a problem with some math because when I look at Florida, I originally looked at 9-3, 5-3 in the SEC, but then I look at this schedule and I consider maybe we're putting a little bit too much on Mr. Lagway. He threw 9 picks last year. He's still learning. Plus, he got hurt and he's still nicked up. And if they've got to go to the backup, Harrison Bailey, ouch. This is a good story in Gainesville, but it's not necessarily a proven commodity. It's far less than that. Really good talent, but they have not arrived with the Texas and Georgia level programs by a long shot. So when I add up the math, I'm coming out at 9-3 and 5-3, but when I try to move off a win off of that total, trying to throw it at somebody else, and I just can't find a landing spot. When you really look at this, let's say they lose at LSU, they lose to Texas, and they lose to Georgia, almost for sure, not for sure. Those are going to be competitive games, but let's size up those as being the 3 losses. Can they make it all the way through? In the SEC, I'm talking Texas A&M on the road, Ole Miss on the road, and then the Tennessee game, you throw that one in there. But that's assuming that they lose the LSU, the Texas, and the Georgia games, all of them. I'm going to say that I'm going to trust DJ Lagway in Florida to get through this and continue this upward climb. 9-3, 5-3 in the SEC. Yes, they are going to defeat Miami and Florida State outside the conference. Your thoughts, comments, questions down below right here at the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind, we've got a Florida show with the 2 Tylers Sunday nights on the Florida channel. Check it out, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, the Monday through Friday, the College Football Show with me right here, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, talking college football with you right here at the Voice of College Football.